Imagine you're planning your next vacation and you're faced with a crossroads. All your friends are going to typical destinations like Paris, New York, or Tokyo. And you want something different. Something that no one else has on their Instagram stories. Something that will leave you speechless. I propose something to you, Ivory Coast. What? Ivory Coast? Where is that? Don't worry, you're not alone. Today we're going to unearth the best-kept secrets of this African country that, believe me, after this video, you're going to fall in love with. Let's start easy. Geography. Ivory Coast is in West Africa, with access to the Atlantic Ocean. But wait. Don't hold the map in your head just yet, because this country has much more to offer than just its location. Ivory Coast is like the epicenter of African diversity. You have Ghana on one side, Liberia on the other, and to the north, iconic countries like Mali and Burkina Faso. It is a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, and landscapes that you cannot even imagine. But I know what you're thinking, how the hell do I get there? Well, if you're flying from Europe, it's easy, there are direct flights from Paris, Amsterdam, and more. So, if you wanted an excuse to stop over in Paris and treat yourself to the city of love, voila! You fly to Abidjan, the most vibrant city in the country. But let's not just stop at how to get there, because we're just getting started. Abidjan or Yamoussoukro? The dilemma of the two capitals. First crazy thing about Ivory Coast, it has two capitals. Two. On the one hand, there is Abidjan, the city that pulses with the energy of modernity, business, and parties. Yes, parties. Abidjan is known for having a nightlife that will leave you exhausted, and not because it is chaotic, but because it simply does not stop. But then, you have Yamoussoukro, which is the official capital. And this is where things get surreal. This city, despite not being the largest, has something that will take your breath away, the Basilica of Our Lady of Peace, the largest church in the world. Yes, bigger than St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. It's so big that you can walk inside it and feel like an ant. And best of all, it's not crowded with tourists. Imagine being inside one of the most impressive religious buildings in the world, and practically having it to yourself. Cocoa is the real reason you love this country and you didn't know it. Do you like chocolate? Of course you do. Well, let me tell you this, if you love chocolate, then you already love Ivory Coast, even if you don't know it. This country is the largest producer of cocoa in the world. So, when you're eating that delicious chocolate bar, there's a pretty good chance that it's made from Ivorian cocoa. But here's the surprise, despite being the largest cocoa producers, many Ivorians have never tried chocolate in its final form. Can you believe it? The beans are exported, processed in other countries, and then come back as a product that many locals can't afford. Unfair, right? So, next time you eat chocolate, think about this, you're connected to a reality that goes beyond what you imagine. And here's my first challenge, next time you buy chocolate, check the label and try to find one that comes from the Ivory Coast. Share your discovery in the comments. How many Ivorian chocolates do you find in the supermarket? And now, onto something more mystical, the Festival of Masks. This event is one of the most incredible and mysterious in West Africa. It is celebrated in different parts of the country, but one of the most impressive is the one held in the region of Man. Here, we are not just talking about pretty party masks. No. These masks are much more than that. For the Dan and Gir ethnic groups, for example, masks have spiritual powers. Yes, like superpowers, but serious ones. These masks represent the ancestors and the spirits who look after the tribe. And to honor them, the locals perform dances that will give you goosebumps. It's not just a show for tourists, it's a ceremony that connects people with their history and their spirituality. You can't remain indifferent to that. And here's another challenge for you, if you ever visit Ivory Coast, would you dare to wear one of these masks and join in the dance? Let's see who's up for it. Let's move on to something wilder. If you thought that Ivory Coast was all about beaches and cocoa, you're wrong. The country is also home to one of the most mind-blowing places in Africa, Mount Nimba. It's a mountain that has a peculiarity that makes it unique. It doesn't belong to just one country.
Part of it is in Guinea, part in Liberia, and part in Ivory Coast.
Can you imagine standing in a place where you can touch 3 countries at the same time? But that's not the best part. The real gem of Mount Nimba is its biodiversity. It's home to species you won't find anywhere else on the planet. Have you ever heard of the live-bearing toad? It's a species that gives birth to live babies instead of laying eggs. It's rare, but it's normal at Mount Nimba. You can also find chimpanzees, antelopes, and vegetation that looks like something out of a fantasy movie. So, if adventure and extreme nature are your thing, this is the place you should go. Do you dare to explore an ecosystem where you can discover animals that most people don't even know exist? Did you think that Côte d'Ivoire had no rhythm? Allow me to introduce you to Zouglou, a musical genre born in the popular neighborhoods of Abidjan in the 1990s.
This music will not only make you tap your feet, but it also tells stories. Zouglou is a mirror of the social reality of Ivorians, and its lyrics speak of everything from politics to interpersonal relationships.
Imagine a mix of traditional African rhythms with a bit of reggae and a pinch of funk. It's impossible to stay still when it's playing. Zouglou is so important that it's already a symbol of Ivorian identity. And if you ever feel lost in the streets of Abidjan, follow the sound of the Zouglou. It is the best compass to find the heart of the city. We cannot talk about Côte d'Ivoire without mentioning its women, who are an essential part of the country's social fabric. Ivorian women have incredible strength and are fundamental in many aspects of daily life, from the local economy to the deepest traditions. In rural areas, it is common to see women managing markets, working in agriculture, especially on cocoa plantations, and shouldering the responsibility of their families. But make no mistake, they are not only prominent in the countryside. In cities, many women lead businesses, are part of government, and are taking on key roles in education and culture. The matriarchy in some tribes is also noteworthy. In certain ethnic groups, such as the Akan, inheritance and titles are passed down the maternal line. This is a reflection of the influence that women have in the social structure of many Ivorian communities. However, not everything is rosy. They also face challenges related to access to education and gender equality, but seeing Ivorian women making their way in different spheres is an inspiration. Let's change the subject for a moment. Have you ever wanted to know what it's like to be in a local market where every corner is filled with colors, smells, and sounds you've never experienced before? In Abidjan, you have the Trecville Market, one of the most vibrant in the entire country. Here you can buy tropical fruits you never even knew existed, spices that seem magical, and best of all, traditional clothing and handmade crafts. But the real experience of this market is the interaction with the people. Ivorians are known for being incredibly friendly and always have a smile ready for you. Oh, and a tip, if you visit the market, be sure to try a teak, which is a traditional cassava-based dish, served with fish or meat. If you like couscous, you'll love this. We can't end this trip without talking about the beaches. And yes, you heard right, Assinie-Mafia. No, it's not a secret organization, it's the name of one of the most beautiful beaches in Ivory Coast. Just a few hours from Abidjan, this place is a tropical paradise where you can get away from it all. The best thing is that it's not that touristy yet, so you can enjoy the white sand and crystal clear waters without the crowds. Perfect for a relaxing retreat or for water sports like surfing. So, if a holiday where you can feel like the only human being on earth is your thing, Assinie-Mafia is the place for you. Visa, do I need one? One of the key points if you are thinking of traveling to the Ivory Coast, do you need a visa? Well, it depends on your nationality. For many countries, an entry visa is required. The good thing is that you can manage it online through the e-visa. It is quick and easy, and can be collected at the Félix Houphouët-Boigny International Airport in Abidjan. Remember to check the requirements for your country, but the most important thing is that you don't need to spend weeks at the embassy. With the electronic system, everything is much faster. A word of advice, make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months, and don't forget the recommended vaccinations, such as the yellow fever vaccination, which is mandatory.
So, before booking your flight, double-check your passport and vaccinations, and voila, you're on your way to an epic adventure.
And where do I stay? Hotels in Ivory Coast. Finally, let's talk about accommodation, because after all that adventure, you'll want a nice place to rest. The good thing about Ivory Coast is that you have a wide range of options, from luxury hotels to more affordable accommodations. In Abidjan, you'll find international chain hotels such as Radisson Blu and Sofitel, perfect if you're looking for all the modern comforts. There are also boutique hotels with more local charm, where you can experience Ivorian design and hospitality. If you head to more touristy areas such as Assinie-Mafia, there are beachfront resorts that offer a more relaxing experience, such as Hotel Kukube or Ihodo Lodge, ideal for unwinding. On the other hand, if you are on a tighter budget, don't worry. Ivory Coast also has plenty of budget hotels and hostels that, although simpler, are clean, comfortable and offer warm hospitality. In rural areas, you can also find more modest accommodations, but they will allow you to immerse yourself in the local culture in a more authentic way. Let's get down to business, the climate. Ivory Coast has a tropical climate, which means that heat and humidity are the order of the day most of the year. But don't worry, there are variations depending on the region and the season. On the coast, for example, in Abidjan or Assinie-Mafia, temperatures are usually warm and humidity is constant. Between May and October, there is a fairly intense rainy season, so if you plan to travel during those months, don't forget your umbrella. The best time to visit is from November to March, when the rains decrease and the weather is drier, but still warm. In the north of the country, the climate is drier and hotter, especially in January and February. This is where you will feel the influence of the Sahara the most, with temperatures that can be quite high, but with cool nights. If you like a tropical climate with the possibility of a shower to cool off your day, you will love the Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast is not just a dot on the map, it is a sensory experience that will leave a mark on you. From the spirituality of its masks to the incessant rhythm of the Zouglou, this country invites you to see the world from a new perspective. Now, it's your turn. Do you dare to explore what you have explored? If you liked what you saw today, close your eyes for a